It is 5:49 on CHEX Daily. This Tuesday edition welcomes for the roundtable Kate Winn. Hello, Kate. She is normally here for Teacher Teacher. She is a mom and a blogger and a teacher.
Yes,
and today we're going to spend some time on a topic that we actually don't often talk about with our kids. We talk about teaching them to read and inspiring them to love math and sports, but we don't talk about writing. Why did you lead to talking about raising a writer?
Well, of course, I'm a little biased because I love writing myself, but as a teacher, I see that it's something really important for kids to have that skill. And at home, I see my daughters. I see one more interested in it than the other, but I think it's important at home to kind of give kids some motivation to do it.
And what is so important about that, even if they're not going to grow up to be, you know, a best-selling author, let's say, why is it so important for a young child to have those kind of skills?
Yeah, and you're right when you say author. A lot of people think, you know, fiction and story writing and that sort of thing, but we know in the career world, there are so many jobs that require writing, and all of the subjects they take, even if it's not English and language, they're going to be writing, you know, for all sorts of different purposes, and so it's really good to encourage them to do that.
They seem very excited if you read anything that they've written. You know, when you do an ooh and an ah over a picture or words or letters, they really enjoy that kind of sense of pleasing the parent or seeing their efforts recognized.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's great to celebrate any types of writing that they do, for sure.
So what are we hoping for then when we're raising a writer, if it's not necessarily, you know, author?
Yeah, for sure. Well, one thing you can do to kind of motivate your kids at home is have all the supplies on hand that they can use to write with. So, you know, you're thinking the typical pencils and paper and things like that. Make sure you've got a working pencil sharpener in the house is another thing. But even fun stuff, like the dollar store has cheap things like notebooks and colored pens and all those sorts of things. Even that little extra kick might get a kid to pick something up and get writing. And those are also good ideas for, you know, holiday gifts, if you're doing loot bags, that sort of thing. Because the impact of those sorts of things lasts a lot longer than the candy and the little toys.
Good idea.
For sure.
Stocking stuffers.
Yeah, and never too early to get kids thinking even about journal writing, diary writing. I mean, that can be a really good personal, social sort of thing to get them started with as well.
So what if you have a child who just doesn't really want to gravitate towards the writing? What do you do to encourage that?
Even some of the reading that you do at home, because whether you're reading, you know, if you've got little kids and you're reading picture books and things like that, or even older kids, sometimes parents forget that you can do read-alouds. Sometimes that gets kids inspired or gets them into a certain genre, something that they want to start writing about. And you can also make it a game. There are a lot of games you can get, like Scrabble and Boggle, and depending on the age of your kids, there are junior versions of those things that are really helpful. Yes. I brought one neat little game that I found. It's called Rory's Story Cubes. And it's great because it's not actually a writing activity, but what you do is you have these little cubes, and you kind of roll dice, and there are images on each cube, and so you tell a story with them. And so you can divvy them up, and each person has to take turns. So, I mean, it says in here that you kind of start with Once Upon a Time, and then you can go around, but you have to base it on some of the images that are on here. So that can be something fun to do, and kids don't think that they're writing or working when they're doing something like this. But oral storytelling is a great basis for the writing that they're going to be doing.
Well, and that's really interesting because it takes the idea of writing and breaks it down into two basics. One is you need to know how to write, but the other is the creativity or the creative side of being a writer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so this kind of stokes that as well.
For sure. And it's good too for kids to see the real purposes for writing. And I mean, as adults, we might not be writing a lot of, you know, fairy tales, but there are a lot of things that you're doing, whether it's for work or whether it's at home, list making, all those sorts of things that you can get kids involved with. And don't forget about social media too, because for some parents, a lot of the writing that they do is the writing they do on Facebook and Twitter, but it's important for kids to see that, and that can also start so many great conversations about appropriate content and social media, all those sorts of things too, and it's all still writing.
I find that art can segue nicely into writing. You know, my own daughter's birthday cards that she creates for members of our family have moved on from good wishes and interesting comments about the person who's receiving them, and I don't think she realizes that that's really a great movement in her writing.
Absolutely. And when you're saying cards or things that she's giving to people, having an audience for writing can really motivate kids too.
Oh.
So whether it is like, you know, cards or letters, things that they can send to somebody maybe who can actually write them back, or even if you're having a holiday party, have the kids write up the menu to show the guests when they come, or anything where they feel like somebody's actually going to see this and care about it, and it's not just something I'm kind of doing for no reason. That can sometimes give them a little bit of a spark to get going too.
Is there a value to making this a pen or pencil to paper thing over a keyboard?
Right. I think it's important for kids, especially the really young ones, to have those printing skills, and you want them doing that fine motor and learning to print the letters. As kids get older, if the computer is more motivational, then, like, I know my older daughter loves to get on the laptop and just type her stories, and if that's something that gets them going, then absolutely that's a great thing.
What kind of feedback are you getting from the article? You just did an article
so
for
this was
Parents
in
Canada.
the recent edition of Parents Canada. Yeah, and I think parents kind of think about reading more often, right? They're thinking about how they want to get their kids reading, and sometimes not thinking as much about the writing connection. And you can have a kid who's interested more in one than the other, or can get going in one, and that sort of inspires the other. So. Yeah. So
what age are we? How much writing do we want our kids to do? Say
as much as they possibly can.
Well, that's the thing. You're squeezing it in between sports, homework, that kind of thing. Are you looking to get something once a day or once a week?
I mean, if you get them started with something like a little journal or anything, even where they're just putting a sentence, like, kindergarten, and it doesn't have to make sense to you what they're writing, right? As long as they think they're writing something and getting it down on paper. But yeah, I mean, the more they can write, the better. And I forgot to mention, this is available at Chapters.
Good gift ideas to get the writer in your child inspired, and we'll put your article online on Facebook so people can find out more. This is Kate Winn at This Mom Loves, a blogger and a great guest for CHEX Daily. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We've got more just ahead.